going to take a look at my first house. Let's get into it. Okay, so you are looking at the front of the house, and this used to be an apartment where you walked in the front door. If you turned right, there was a door on the right. If you turned left, there was a door on your left. And then there was a stairway going up. So there was like a foyer when you walked in. I first rented one of the apartments for maybe 2-3 years. And then I bought the property. So I moved in here when I was 18. When I was 21, I bought the property. And when I was probably 35, I converted it back to a house. That's why there's such a big parking lot back, because there was multiple people living here. And I took this video in 2014. This was 11 years ago. And of course you see the fence for my dogs, and I still had a lot of room. This is one of the craziest things I ever did. This was a 2,500 square foot deck. Now you'll see the fence around the deck and the gates. This was so that like if there was a reason I needed to keep my dogs contained without going to the back, then I could do that just in this deck area, and they would still have a large exterior place to play, and then not be able to get out. And so this place had a lot of coyotes, and at night I would close the gate down there, and so that they could not get down. You can see there's a gate right there that would shut up that stairway going down. Now I also put in this quarter mile. It was actually 0.21. This is 0.21 from start to finish. 0.21 miles, and that was gauged with a GPS unit. So as good as that technology is, that's the measurement. But it's only about 4.5 foot wide, and you can see the fencing there at the woods. I had the fence there for the dogs, but this property was 3 acres, and I was able, I think if you may have heard me say in older videos that I was good at rollerblading, so I got like really good to where I could be competitive. But what happened was rollerblading never took off as like a masculine sport. It was like the only sport I was ever good at, and then it just like went away. So it just is one of those things. That's probably why I have an aversion to sports. Maybe I have some bitterness over the fact that the one thing I was good at petered out. Anyway, this was just it was just nice, and I was able to just, walk around this, or run, or, ride my bike or rollerblade without having to get out on the street and, just be exposed. So, this was my first experience with a home, and so having the capacity to let my dogs, be free to roam, it just, that dog there her name was Agnes, and she reminds me of a lot of Vivian that I have now, and that was Max, which Max just passed away last year. But yeah, this is kind of having flashbacks watching this. What's funny is I was still working for Toyota when I made this video, so this was 11 years ago. I wasn't even in real estate, but I'm so glad that I made a video of I documented my first residence and I posted it on YouTube, so like I can never lose it. Like YouTube is just like such a free storage place for videos. It's great. But yeah, this was a huge deck, and so like I would always stain this myself, and I called the project One Man, One Brush. So I kept it stained, and like I would do it like the vertical parts I wouldn't do that often, but the horizontal parts I would do like every 2 or 3 years. So this was kind of the foyer first where you would have been. But I opened everything up. You can see where the beams are across there. And I had to drywall them because they were old Amish beams, but they were just so, they were just too distressed for my taste. So and it was cheaper to just drywall over. So I made the downstairs, which used to be like living rooms for each apartment. I made it just wide open where you could just walk all the way around it. This must have been like when I was moving out, because it looks pretty much empty. And yeah, I had a laundry room that was tied into a full bath. And there's my lion picture. So that's the one where it tells the story about the lion and the gazelle, and basically says, yeah, when the sun comes up, you best be running. If you're gonna make it in the world, you gotta survive. Yeah. It looks like we're gonna go down in the basement. This house had a very small basement. This house was built in the late 1800s, and this used to be like a cellar. But I did have obviously a water softener, and obviously a water heater, and then a furnace. Of course, I had a furnace. That room is like a storage room. But you can just see how old the stacked stone is. It's, man, it was old. That little hole in the wall over there was where they would shoot coal. Like, this used to be the coal room. But this house, I knew every inch of this house because I completely redid it. Look at the floors. The floors were just trees that had been cut down. That's what the beams of the house were just trees. They didn't even take the bark off. It was, yeah, it was interesting. Hi, Agnes. I love that dog so much. She was my first yellow lab, and ever since then, that's all I've had. And then this was the kitchen. Obviously, this home was not an open concept with the kitchen because this was the kitchen for this apartment. I just left it because it had the biggest kitchen, and it was a cost savings thing where I was redoing all of that, and you get so deep into spending money that you just get to the point that it's not worth the money you're spending on it. So that's the situation I had. Then if you go over here, this was like a pantry. You can see all my dog treats up there. Good Lord, the dogs are going at it tonight. And then this was just a closet in here. This room is Naughty Pine storage up there. And yeah, I don't know why I have clothes hanging up there. I must be moving. But this is a dining area. Now we're going to go upstairs. So upstairs was one apartment. So So this used to be a 2-bedroom apartment with a living room, kitchen, and a full bath, and I made it 1 bedroom with a full bath. So from corner to corner you can see just how big that is. I also cathedral the ceiling, and because it was flat up there, and this was a bath over here. So this is what I made into a bath. Now again, I'm gonna go try to stop the snoring from being so bad. Okay, yeah, so you saw the bath. I had a jacuzzi tub in there, and this was just a partial wall, so I kept it like an open bathroom. It was just I was designing this thing from I gutted the whole thing, took everything out. It was just like a big open barn, and then converted it into this. It was my first, the first time that I really had money, and I loved this property, and so I made it what I wanted. And yeah, I was obviously still living here at the time. I think I was in the process of moving, and this is why I was making it, because I moved out before I sold this, so I had both homes for a while. I had the home that I live in now, where I am recording this video, and this home that you're seeing right here was my first and only home. Basically, after I moved out of my parents' home, I moved into an apartment here, and then once the tenants left one by one, I didn't rent the other apartments out, and I kept it. I had surround sound. In each corner, and yeah. But anyway, yeah, that's I've only had 2 houses in my life. So you can see that I had wired up behind the walls, because I knew it was something that I would want. But again, when you're designing your own home, you can do anything. So I kind of built a home. I just wish I could have videoed the whole process of the reconstruction, and just because again, you saw the construction of this place was made when there were no power tools. So this house was built by hand, with no trucks or anything coming here. It's fascinating to me to think that this was a dirt road when they built this house, and they did it by hand with a handsaw and a hammer. That I had a Toyota 4Runner at the time. I don't know what year that was, probably in 2013, because this was 2014, so it was probably a year old. And that's what I used to do, is just drive. I used to trade Toyota 4Runners every couple years, so about every 2 years I would get a new one and just trade to get a new one. This was just looking at the garage. So it was a detached garage. Yep, there we go. So yeah, that's where I lived from the time I was 18 until I was, 10 years ago would have been 50. I would have been 40. I was 42 when I made that video. So from 18 to 42, I lived in that house. Now, I could show you a lot of pictures of the before. I have pictures, and I have shown some one of my older videos I did, I went through my old photo album, and I was showing pictures, and I showed many of that apartment when I first moved in there. One picture, I was holding up Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, and it was when I was renting that apartment, so that had to be I had to be in my 20s, and it was just showing that, that was 30 years ago. But I had the mindset back then that I knew I had to hustle. I had the hustle mindset, like just work. But I will say, this is a caution, like that deck, my brother, who is 3 years younger than me, he was a carpenter by trade, but he was like one of those contractors that would work for somebody for 4 or 5 months, and then they're not treating me right, and I'm gonna go work somewhere else. Or he was the type of guy that he'd get, $1,000 in his pocket and would take a couple days off work because he was in good shape. He had enough money to live for the next week or two until that money, he would go back to work to just get enough to get him by. And it's amazing how he and I are just like polar opposites, that I basically became a workaholic and he was like completely averse to work. He would always tell me, man, you gotta live a little, and I would always tell him, man, you got to get your act together, bro. This time is ticking away, But fast forward to today, 30 years later for both of us, and I don't say to him, I wish I would have listened to you, bro. But you know what he says to me? I wish I would have listened. That's what he says. I mean, he's in bad shape. I paid his house off. I bought him the vehicle he drives. I bought his daughter the vehicle she drives. Just probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, he called me for $300, and we don't even say, I'll pay you back. He doesn't even try to say it because he knows he never will. It used to be, it was just always, I'll get you back, bro. I promise, just help me out. The point is, I love him. He's my brother, and I will never turn my back on him. But if he was here with me, in which I've tried to get him to do a podcast with me, I think we could do a great podcast just because he thinks a lot like me. But then there's obviously things that he's different about, and I think it would just be a good contrast if we were to, one, just have conversations between he and I, or two, have people on that we could both ask maybe different styles of questions to. But anyway, back to the house. That deck is so huge because there would be times he had no work and he needed money, and so I wouldn't have any projects for him. Like, sure, maybe I would like to redo my kitchen, but that's such a big project, and I would not let him take those on. But sure, add a little bit more onto my deck on this side, or add a little bit more. It became that, you saw some of those different heights and stuff. It's because that deck took place over the course of, I lived there 20 years, so pretty much over the course of 20 years, I would just add on more, and trying to find work for him. And then he did a lot of that work as well. So gutting the house, he gutted the entire thing, tore all those apartments out. So basically that house had 3 living rooms, 3 bathrooms, 3 kitchens, and 4 bedrooms because it had 2 up and 2 down. And it became a 2-bedroom house with 2 full baths and 1 kitchen. And yeah, so that's the point being, if I could go back in time, and it's the dumbest financial move I've ever made, was I would have left that place, apartments. What I should have done is I should have just moved when I was was ready to stop living in that one-bedroom apartment that I lived in there. I should have said, okay, I know what I'll do. I'll find me a house to live in and I'll rent this thing out because I owned the place while I was renting it out. But instead, I fell in love with the old house and I wanted to make it like everything I wished it was, but I made it highly, highly unmarketable because it was only a 2-bedroom house, but it was that big. I mean, it was a huge house that was only 2 bedrooms, so it kind of like it made families usually want a minimum of 3 bedrooms if it's a husband, wife, and kid, you know. And then it also had the 3 acres, so it's a lot of mowing. Now, I mowed it for years and years, but I got to the point that I can make so much more money staying at work, rather than coming home to mow, that I just paid. I eventually paid to have it done. Now, I don't pay here. I mow my own yard here, but I have just a little bit under 3 acres, and I have a barn, so it takes up some space, and I have like this big landscape area, kind of like the deck was there at that other house. But the point is that house was highly, highly difficult to market because it was so unique, and but I was able to sell it myself. So it was one of the things that I had my real estate license, but I didn't work in real estate. I was still working for Toyota, but I found my own buyer at the dealership. I was showing a car to some guy, and I heard him on the phone, and it was like, well, maybe like I was at the computer, maybe typing in his credit app. He was on the phone, like he wasn't being rude, like it was a moment, like I was doing something pertaining to him buying the car, and he just kind of had a moment where he could just do whatever. And I heard him on the phone talking to someone about looking for a house, and I obviously see his credit app, so I know that he's local. And I said, once he got off the phone, I said to him, I said, you guys, are you looking for a home? And he said, yeah, I am. And I said, well, I've got one that will be coming up on the market, but it's pretty unique. It's got land. He said, oh, we're looking for land. And one thing led to another, and he agreed to look at it, and they bought it. So now what's funny is that I've moved away, but that's the town I was born in, and I lived there for 20 years, so like everybody I know knows that like it was on a busy 4-lane road. It's like one of the major thoroughfares in that town, but it sat a good way off the road, but it was like it was a very unique house for the area, and so a lot of people just knew I lived there. Well, what happened is that the guy that bought it, he was gay, so two gay guys bought it, and now like they put out rainbow flags and stuff like that. So I'm like, you know, if people that knew me don't know that I moved away, they likely think that I started flying the rainbow flag. But it's just a funny joke within my family. And then they also like put out like major like decorations. I'm not talking about just for Christmas. I mean, these guys put out crazy like Halloween stuff, and like I'm talking the big giant like skeletons in the yard, and like the blow up, I forget what they're called, they're poppables or something like the big blow up. They have air going to them, and they get big. But I just cannot believe what the guys, not just the money, but the damn time they spend on decorating for these holidays. And it's like, it's I just don't do it. Anyway, before I go, I wanted to show something. I wanted to show you guys something here. This is, let me get this here. This is an article on Yahoo News about Elon Musk, and there we go. Says Elon Musk says he paid Ashley St. Clair $2.5 million for alleged child. Weeks after Ashley St. Clair announced that she gave birth to the Tesla CEO's 13th child, the conservative influencer accused him of scaling back his support payments for their son. In a video published by the Daily Mail, March 31st, Ashley was seen handing over the keys to her $100,000 Tesla outside her Manhattan apartment, telling a reporter, "I need to make up for the 60% cut that Elon made to our son's child support." When the reporter asked if she felt the tech executive was being vindictive towards her, Ashley, who said her last attempt to speak with Elon was on February 13th, offered a veiled response. "Well, that's his modus operandi when women speak out." She continued, "You can check the stocks. I'm not the only one who is cleaning up after his messes." Shortly thereafter, Elon responded to a clip of the interview shared on social media addressing the paternity of Ashley's baby. "I don't know if the child is mine or not, but am not against finding out," the 53-year-old wrote in a post on X. "No court order is needed," he said. And while Elon did not address whether or not he decreased his child support payments, he insisted he was still supporting the infant financially. Despite not knowing for sure, he continued, "I have given Ashley $2.5 million and am sending her $500,000 a year." Ashley shared the arrival of her child in February in a post on X, which Elon recently sold to his AI starter company in a $33 billion deal, revealing she had given birth 5 months prior. "Elon Musk is the father," she wrote at the time. "I have not previously disclosed this to protect our child's privacy and safety, but in recent days it has become clear that the tabloid media intends to do so, regardless of the harm it will cause." Anyway, this is, I thought you might find this interesting, and I thought maybe we could discuss it a little bit. I don't know what I would do in that scenario. I suppose that, you and I could not give somebody that kind of money. But imagine just being able to. It's just the thought that he can say, "Look, here's $2.5 million now, and I'll pay you $500,000 a year child support." I don't know. It's very interesting, the capacity of someone to be able to do that, and the fact that what a woman gets depends on who the man is. I think that's kind of strange, and I'm sure it would be roles reversed somehow. Maybe I mean, if a woman were to have a kid and then basically make the dude take care of it. Like, I know Jennifer Lopez paid one of her husbands a lot of money to go away, but I don't know. It seems really strange to me. It's a strange setup. Personally, I have always been very careful, and I do not believe in my heart that I have a kid out there. I think because financially speaking, though, I'm a nobody when it comes to people like Elon Musk or Tiger Woods or LeBron James or Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, you name it. I'm not even in that radar, nor do I want to be. But for locally, I'm doing better than the average. And so I believe that of all the women I dated, or when I was a lot younger, just had some crazy drunken fling with, one night stand or whatever, that still somebody would have pursued paternity against me to at least get something. I would think, but obviously nobody ever has. And then there was one time I had a girlfriend, and she said she was pregnant, but it was at a time where, like, she didn't live with me, and we were kind of brand new dating, and she couldn't swear to me that it was mine. And she had I don't want to say the word because I don't want to ruin the video, but the child didn't get born. And that's something that's kind of stuck with me a little bit, just wondering what if it was. She led me to believe that she didn't think it was, and I have to believe that if she thought it was, that she wouldn't have. But this was probably in my 20s, and so, yeah, we're talking 30 years ago. I'm quite certain there weren't the options back then. Probably now, you can get pre-paternity, I think you can, but at any rate, it's something that I will likely never have to deal with. I mean, not that I don't think I could have. I think I could still have kids, but it's looking less and less like I ever will. And I don't feel like any regret over it. I try to look at the blessings, of not having it. I don't have the concern or the responsibility. In a way, it's selfish. But I think that I looked at it as my only way out, and I just knew I could never be the father that I would want to be, and also fight my way out of poverty. Now, I do say that. I say that in my mind, and I believe it. But there is a part of me that I wonder if the pressure of a child would not have propelled me even further, or made me I know, rest assured, if I would have had a kid, I would not be here. I would not be posting ASMR videos online. I'm sure of it. It would have changed my life. I would be in a totally different place. I mean, our decisions, it's in the moments of our decisions that our destiny is shaped. I mean, everything we decide, it changes the trajectories of our lives. They're so important, decisions are. So, I mean, I live with very little regret, I will say that. I regret not going to the military. But much less than that, and maybe I talked myself out of them. Maybe I've just convinced myself to be content with what I have, which I think is a great theory to live by. But for now, I don't feel regret about not having kids, especially when I read stuff like this. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you on the next one.